In the 10 years that Daniel Ricciardo has competed in Formula 1, he has won 7 races, finished on the podium 31 times, and has been third in the standings twice in 2014 and 2016. So by all measures, Daniel Ricciardo is a blisteringly quick driver. Yes, of course, since leaving Red Bull in 2018, he hasn't been able to challenge for wins anymore, but that is more due to his machinery than any fault of his own. But as always, the best measure of a driver is how he performs in comparison to his teammate. At Renault, he beat Nico Hülkenberg pretty easily in 2019, before wiping the floor with his new teammate Esteban Ocon. Sorry, Esteban. But using this measure for the current 2021 season, by all accounts, it's been absolutely terrible for the Australian, as he's scored 24 points as of the Monaco Grand Prix, while his teammate Lando Norris has racked up 54 points as well as 2 podiums. So what exactly has happened to Daniel Ricciardo since moving to McLaren, and when can we expect to see Daniel challenging for podiums and wins once again? Well, firstly, let's look at Daniel Ricciardo's 2021 season so far. At the time of filming this video, we are 5 races in, and this is how they went. The first race of the season in Bahrain was by all means a decent first race weekend with McLaren, as he qualified 6th on the Saturday and finished 7th in the race, as Norris came home in 4th. He then replicated his qualifying form in Imola almost exactly by beating Norris to 6th in qualifying once again, but come the race, Daniel stayed in 6th, while Norris snatched up a podium with 3rd place. But come round 3 at the Portuguese Grand Prix, Ricciardo was really struggling with the conditions and suffered a shock Q1 exit in qualifying, meaning for the race he would line up in 16th place, while Norris would qualify 7th, 7/10ths up the road. But in fairness, come the race he managed to salvage a couple points with a 9th place finish. And then round 4 in Spain saw Daniel outperform Norris over the whole weekend for the first time, as he outqualified him by 4/10ths on the Saturday, then came home for 6th, 2 places ahead of Lando. At this point, everyone was positive that the Daniel of old was back, but then came Monaco. Having won in 2018 and almost winning in 2016, Ricciardo was feeling so good about the weekend that he wrote "I own these streets" on the back of his helmet for the race weekend. But sadly for Daniel, come Saturday, all that he owned was a Q2 elimination and 12th on the grid, which in Monaco is even more punishing because, as we know, it's almost impossible to overtake. And so come race day, he came home in 12th place to round off a very disappointing weekend, while his teammate enjoyed his 2nd podium of the season with a 3rd place finish. And so after 5 races, he sits 8th in the standings on 24 points, which is definitely not what he was expecting given how much potential that McLaren has. So evaluating the whole 5 races, he's actually beating Norris in the qualifying head-to-head 3-2, which shows he has decent pace over 1 lap. But come Sundays, it's clear that he's still not comfortable in the car, with Norris beating him 4-1, and with Ricciardo failing to even finish in the top 5. So what is the issue that is holding Ricciardo back? Well, just like it is joining any new team, you are put into a new and different car. And from what we understand, Ricciardo is having to adapt his driving style quite a bit to suit the MCL 35M. The exact issue that Ricciardo is struggling to overcome? Slow speed corners. You see, in the past, Ricciardo has always liked to ride the brake more into a corner. In other words, he likes to keep a very small amount of pressure on the brake in low speed corners. But the MCL 35M isn't really geared towards riding the brake, and so Ricciardo has been suffering from understeer in those low speed corners. All of this means Ricciardo has been struggling to find total confidence in the car, which of course always makes life harder. Before I continue, if you are new to the channel and enjoying this video so far, make sure to scroll down and smash that red subscribe button below, as we are getting ever closer to that magical 30,000 subscriber milestone. Right, now back to Danny Ric. So the burning question everyone is wondering, himself more than anyone, is how long it will take him to learn this new driving style. Or at least, how long will it take him to have total confidence in the car? Well, firstly, it's not just down to Ricciardo to fix. The McLaren guys are able to help him out either through setup or through aerodynamic changes. And that's exactly what they did at the Spanish Grand Prix by slightly changing the profile of the front wing, which clearly worked brilliantly because that was the weekend where Ricciardo was consistently ahead of Norris. But at the next race in Monaco, where there is the lowest average speed of anywhere on the calendar, it was clear that these front wing changes were just one piece of the puzzle. But when it comes to working out when Ricciardo will next be in form, we only need to look back to 2019 for a reference. Danny Ric was once again at a new team, but this time it was Renault. And much like this season with McLaren, Ricciardo struggled quite a lot at the start of the season getting used to the new team and the new car. And yes, of course, while the Renault in 2019 was much less competitive than the McLaren in 2021, Ricciardo will admit that he lacked confidence in the car for a large part of the 2019 season. But then, as we all know, the fast and furious Daniel from his Red Bull days was back once he found confidence behind the wheel, as he went on to brush Mercedes' young hopeful Esteban Ocon to the side pretty easily. But, and this is a big but, the main difference between Daniel at Renault in 2019 and Daniel at McLaren in 2021 is, in my opinion, his teammates. While I do think Nico Hülkenberg is a world-class driver and should absolutely be in Formula 1, possibly even in a top team, he doesn't even compare to the Lando Norris we have seen this season so far. Lando has simply been sensational. With 2 podiums and 4 top 5 finishes, I would say he has impressed me the most out of any driver this season so far. And the thing with Lando is, at the age of 21, he's only going to get better, so time is ticking for Ricciardo to stamp his authority at the team, because the last thing he wants is for McLaren to favour Lando over him, much like Red Bull did with Verstappen only a few years ago. So even after Ricciardo gains total confidence behind the wheel of the McLaren, he's then got Lando to compete with, which, as I've mentioned already, is no small task. So let's actually address the title of this video. Will Daniel Ricciardo find his feet at McLaren? Well, of course he is. It's a matter of when, not if. So regarding when, well, I do think he was struggling particularly in Monaco because of how many slow speed corners there are. So heading to Baku and then onto the European rounds, I think he'll be much more comfortable. But as is usually the case, it all depends on how easy it will be for him to adapt, because we know Daniel can, he's a world-class driver, and it's clear he's close to figuring it out based on the performances so far, such as in Spain. So I reckon he'll get it all together in the next few races or so. But as I mentioned before, even when he does get on top of his own problems with the car, he'll then have one hell of a challenge from the kid on the other side of the garage. Thanks for watching, let me know when you think we'll again see the Daniel of old, and as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell to be reminded of any new videos.